Welcome to my video on the Runthrough Newcastle 10k. So this is down the quays in Newcastle upon Tyne, and basically you go 2.5 kind of kilometers up the quays, back down, and then a similar loop. You sort of loop around a different spot and then go back and finish back up, just where you see that big arch on the left there. So for me, I kind of went into this a little bit blind on what sort of time I was aiming for. I believe I'm capable of a sub 35 minute 10k. Last summer I kind of focused a bit on the 10k in between marathons and broke 35 for the first time, and I did it twice. So my PB going into this was 34:40, but since then I've been just purely doing marathon kind of work, so haven't really focused on the speed side too much, so I didn't really know where this would kind of go. So the game plan was first 5k aim for an average around 3:30 per kilometre, and then for the final 5k see if I can push that a little bit more as we go on. So yeah, that's the game plan going in. Obviously that would lead to a sub 35 10k as long as the course is accurate, which it will be. So that's kind of where the mindset was going into this. So going by the watch, that first kilometre was a 3:30 kilometre. Started out a little bit quicker, and then obviously kind of there was periods where you're kind of stuck into big packs where you can't really get around, and yeah, it's just sort of had to go whatever pace was kind of happening. And then there's bits of uphills and bits of downhills as well, so yeah, a bit of a mixed pace at that point. I was also trying to go by effort rather than, you know, constantly checking the watch, so I wanted to do what I felt was a 3:30 kind of effort, one that I pretty much knew I could sustain, all things going normally. So that was kind of the game plan. Didn't want to constantly be checking the watch, you know, and readjusting pace. Doesn't work, you end up surging a bit too much and it'll drain more energy than actually just kind of going by effort. Obviously effort you sort of have to learn, and I kind of knew that my effort was correct when I was checking the watch, so you know it kind of did work out for me. But you know, I wasn't constantly checking. I probably only checked once or twice per kilometre. that's the second kilometre done, and this one again at 3:30. So 7 minutes for the first 2 kilometres, so exactly a 3:30 split, which is perfect. Yeah, for this one we kind of took that turn down onto this road, and then the pace did slow a bit. I was kind of bunched in a lot, and sort of having to stick with what pace the groups I was sort of mixed in with were doing. Then the gaps opened up, and you saw my pace sort of go down into the lower 3:20s, and that was basically me trying to catch up to, I suppose, the next groups, without letting too much of a gap open up in between me and them. You don't want to be out on your own kind of that early in an event in between two groups. So yeah, trying to catch up with people kind of in front, and then sort of stick into their rhythm was the game plan here. And then whenever gaps were opening up, if I was gaining on them or whatever, my plan was to just slowly overtake. I wasn't trying to surge in any overtakes. Again, that's just extra energy used up. And in a short race like this, little kind of mistakes in that sort of sense would actually impact you. So yeah, still feeling all right at this stage. You want to hope to be just 2 kilometers in, but kind of getting ready for this point where we have to take a few turns, do a U-turn, and then go back back along where we've just come from. So the course gets a bit kind of slower in those sort of areas. So you also do want to bank a little bit of time if you can in the areas in between those sort of turns. So through the third kilometre, and this one was a bit slower, 3:33. But as I mentioned, you're doing a full U-turn, so obviously the pace is kind of slow, and then you're coming back on yourself from where you came before. This direction was where the wind was facing us a little bit, and wasn't really much of a wind to be fair, but yeah, still slight impact. And you can sort of see I've sort of ended up in this group with these few lads from the North Shields Poly Club. So I kind of figured they must all be sort of aiming to run in around maybe 35ish minutes, and they just seem in a pack. Might be just coincidence, but again, the game plan is if gaps open up, if I'm gaining on them or if they're dropping off, I have to take advantage of those gaps and make my own kind of move. Not even a move, but it's more just sticking to my own pace, and not really focused on kind of anyone else's race here, just purely on my own splits, my own time. So the effort is starting to creep up slightly here, and starting to wonder kind of how long will I be able to sustain this, and or even just will I be able to kick at the end. Maybe I can sustain this pace the whole way through, but yeah, can I do my kick at the end? So the kind of plan was get the 5k the 3:30 average, and then maybe drop a second per kilometre kind of thing. But I would have to see how I was feeling halfway before doing that. But obviously, this is the point where you begin to start to think of those things. How am I feeling? Do I think I will be able to drop my times, and that sort of thing. So yeah, still only a third of the way through, but not feeling too bad at this stage. But the effort is beginning to creep up. Through the 4th kilometre and back again at the 3:30 average. So again, just going by the effort, and it seems to be working out well for me. So probably got a bit lucky in that sense. But yeah, anytime I checked the watch, it looked kind of right to me. So didn't really have to adjust too much. So that was helpful. And it probably shows that I was running probably around the right pace here. The fact that it was beginning to be more of a struggle, but that I still able to hit quite consistently the pace. So now we're 4 kilometres in, and nearly at the halfway point, so that's pretty good. You can see that blue bridge coming up, which means we're kind of near back to the point where we're on the road that connects back to the quayside. So yeah, you can kind of tell that you're near that 5th kilometre already, and then seeing there that the 9 kilometre sign is there, it kind of gave a little bit of a boost, I thought. Maybe start to think, okay, well, when I get to this point, I can just sort of try kick towards the end. But yeah, I wasn't trying to think too much about the end at that point. Obviously there's this tiny little hill here, so I wanted to sort of push up this one and sort of go onto the flat road then with a bit of momentum. So I think I did that quite well. Ended up kind of going around and trying to get past this guy then. So I had to pick up my speed straight out of that corner, and then just sort of ready to get that 4th to 5th kilometre in as fast as I could and get to the halfway point, hopefully averaging that 3:30 per kilometre. that is 5 kilometers in exactly 17:30, which is exactly a 3:30 average pace. And you see that 5th kilometer was a 3:27, so kind of made up those 3 seconds that I lost on the U-turn, and that's probably mainly from that bit out of the last turn where I picked up the pace, kind of getting back onto the flat. So yeah, I think that probably benefited me in that sense. And then from here, I was hoping to kind of get back onto the straight, and once we go around these corners, and then start to hit sub 3:30 paces. So ideally, what I was going to do was like a 3:29 for this kilometer, and then 3:28, and then 3:27, etc. And then push as much as I could in the last kind of mile or so. That was what was in my head anyway beforehand. But yeah, I didn't know how much effort I'd still have at this point. Hadn't really got much sleep the 2 nights before. Probably got about 6 hours sleep over the course of the 2 nights. So yeah, I wasn't really sure kind of would the energy levels drop towards the end. So I also didn't want to push too hard here. So yeah, trying to be a bit sustainable, I guess. But I knew what I was in for at this point because obviously I've been out and back already, so I could kind of try to gauge it based on that. So I knew which sections maybe to push a bit more, or where it maybe seemed a bit slower before, and which sections I could maybe just do what I did before, and I'd probably hit the right sort of paces. So the 6 kilometer ended up being a 3:26. In fact, I was following the same tactic as before with the watch. You know, I wasn't really checking it constantly, but just sort of glances. But it was more pushing up the actual effort that I was putting in to the run itself. So yeah, it was kind of caught up with this sort of group here, who seemed to be running a decent pace. But yeah, I think naturally I ended up just sort of drifting a little bit quicker than what they were doing. Obviously this bit is a bit more spread out, so yeah, it's a little bit harder to kind of run when you're on your own, so getting into groups is good. So I was probably hoping at this point if I could catch that little group ahead. Obviously they're running a pretty strong time, so that's what I was kind of thinking at this point. It was getting to be a bit of a struggle, but you know, I wasn't really feeling the kind of lack of fitness around at this point, and I wasn't losing energy like I thought I might, again with the sleep. So yeah, I was feeling actually a bit confident at this point. The main thing was how quickly could I get to that turn, and I'd sort of judge from there. So I think that was a little bit after 7 kilometers we began the turn. So I had a bit over a kilometer to go before that point. So again, goal here was just to sort of go as fast as I could in a sustainable way, not trying to just begin to kick too early, and yeah, not trying to kill myself. So in the kind of 3:20s, that's somewhere was the effort I was going for, and you can see the time is obviously drifting up and down here, but mostly it is staying under 3:30, so that was pretty good. So the 7 kilometre was a 3:27, and thinking back on it, before kind of watching the clips myself, I was thinking maybe I wasn't actually too bad at the 7, and maybe I could have pushed a bit more than what I did in the end. But then I go back and look at the stats and the data, and my heart rate's 192 or 93, I think it said there. So yeah, it's definitely pushing pretty much to the limit at this point. Obviously 3 kilometers to go and back into the wind, so if anything, it's only going to get tougher from here, even not just the fact that it's the final kilometers, but yeah, obviously into that wind. And we're all a bit more spaced out obviously at this point as well, so these are the kind of things running through my head. I'm starting to think, have I kind of overcooked it? Would I be able to kind of go for it? But yeah, also seeing a lot of lads from Gateshead Harriers there running, and that's the running club I run with. Don't know all the lads necessarily. I'm relatively new to the club, but yeah, it's good to see them out there, all flying. That's something to kind of aspire to. Maybe one day be able to run as fast as them lads are running. But yeah, onto my own team, and we're coming up to that loop, and I'm feeling, at this point, I'm not fully sure how it's going to go this last kind of 2.5 kilometers. But the plan is to just sustain what I'm doing as long as I can and get a kick in at the finish and hopefully get in under 35. So from 7 to 8 kilometers was a 3:29, and that's pretty good. I'm in under 28 minutes, which means I've got over 7 minutes to work with for the final 2 kilometers. Obviously, there's a chance that you've run a bit further in 10k, with weaving and stuff like that. So yeah, don't exactly know where it's going to come in, but at this point, I knew even if I could just cling to kind of 3:30s, I'll be coming in at the right kind of pace. But as you can see from my pace there, things are getting a bit more difficult here. And this was a bit of a slower effort at this point anyway in this kilometre. Obviously in between groups as well, so yeah, I was really kind of struggling, and I was trying not to move too far into the road. Obviously kind of the curvature goes towards the left, so if I can be on the left hand side, I'm traveling less distance, and kind of every little helps when the margins are this tight. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of people here who are kind of gone over the cones, which it's not ideal, but to be fair, you can obviously see how crowded it is for them. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. I think I did go around the cones early on in the race. When I needed to. Obviously, we went in the A race, which is sub 40 minutes, so there was a lot less of us. I think there was like 200-300 of us, and there was like I think in around 2,000 of the people going in the B race, which was anything below 40 minutes. So, obviously it's pretty crowded there on these tight roads. So I can't really blame them for doing it. I probably would have done it myself. But yeah, in my mind, I was trying to stick to the left here, so it wasn't ideal for my own personal race. So that kilometre was a 3:31, so just below target pace. But yeah, a lot of that was kind of, you saw that the pace was slower than 3:30. So obviously there was bits where I was kind of running low 3:20s, and that sort of made up for that. So coming into the final kilometre, and again, the plan was to slingshot out of that turn and kind of just nearly go from there. Not fully kicking at this point, but just trying to pick a bit of speed up, get onto the straight, and then at this point I was thinking once I hit the roundabout, that's when I'll sort of kick and just go as fast as I physically can. Now looking back on it, I wish I'd actually just kicked from here, just gone for it, and if I died, I died. But I would have gone out swinging kind of thing. Obviously I'm at a 3:20 pace there, it's not bad, but I want to be low 3 minutes basically for this final kilometre. If it's 3 minutes of sprinting, it's 3 minutes of sprinting, and then you're done for good. So yeah, I think maybe looking back, that's kind of the mindset I should have had. But at this point I was still being a bit conservative, even though I'm so close to the finish. So I was kind of this is easier to say now that I'm fresh, but at the time I was a bit concerned that if I kicked too early, I wouldn't actually get to the finish, or I'd kind of fall off the pace. You can even see there my pace falling to 3:35. I think at this point I literally was just thinking about the end. So yeah, I'll let you just sort of watch the rest, see what happens, what time I get. Did I get in under 35 minutes, sorry. But yeah, enjoyed it. Good event, nice and flat course, obviously, out and back, and kind of well organised for the A race. Probably wouldn't have enjoyed being in the B race in those big crowds, but yeah, it's probably hard to sort of do it, and they probably try to get as many people as they can, comfortably fit in, and let them all actually get a race in, so that's good. But yeah, obviously not ideal, but yeah, that's how my race went. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, do give it a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, let me know what you thought, if there's anything you think I maybe should have done, or maybe could have done, and you'd like to see in future videos. But yeah, thanks for watching, hope you did enjoy it, and hope you enjoy seeing the finish.
amazing achievement. Well done.